Sorry about that, BookTube. My video cut out right as I was recording, and I've tried using an editing app to stitch together my videos, and that used to work, but now that doesn't seem to work at all anymore, and I think that has something to do with the storage on my phone running out, and I'm not entirely sure how to fix that, other than delete storage, which I'm always hesitant to do. So I'll either stitch this one onto that other video, or I'll post this one as its own video, and then this will just be my classics continued. This will be the part 3, and then I'll do a part 4 for my nonfiction. So we're gonna just continue. I was talking about the pillow book. I was basically done talking about it, and then I'll move on to all the other classics that I have, which I still have quite a bit. I only did one stack in that one video. And that was a shorter video, so maybe it's more palatable to break this up anyways. So we'll just continue from where I was. And the last book on that stack that I wanted to talk about was Dante's The Divine Comedy. This is part 1, Hell, is what it's translated as, and this is the Dorothy Sayers translation, which I've heard good things about, but this is the only edition I have of hers. But I heard that the critical apparatus here is just top notch, and yeah, there's a little image there. Yeah, so this is the Dorothy Sayers version of Inferno, really is what I know it as, but she translates the title as Hell. She didn't actually end up finishing her entire translation, so it had to be finished by Barbara Reynolds, who's a translator for Penguin Classics 2 in the 2 big volume Ariosto volume of what's it called? Oh, the name is blanking. Man, I can't remember. It's Ariosto's. Orlando Furioso, I believe it's called. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, anyways, that's a digression. We're on to some Oxfords, and then we finish off with some more Penguins, and then we move on to the non-Penguin, non-Oxford classics, which I have some gems in there. But first, here's the first Oxford. This is Virginia Woolf's Orlando. I recently reread Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway, and I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I haven't made a video about it, and I don't think I will. I'll just talk about it in a video update, maybe for my April reading sometime. I don't know when I'll get around to that, but I found another copy of Virginia Woolf's Orlando. I have all of her novels in ebooks, but I like picking up these physical classics of her works. So I like having, because with Virginia Woolf, I think it helps to have a lot of critical apparatus. And yeah, so that's Orlando, and then we move on to Homer's The Odyssey. I have a lot of editions of Homer, and this is, I got this for the translation. This is the translation by Walter Scheuring. Walter Scheuring, with an introduction by G.S. Kirk. And this translation came out in the 50s, I want to say. Let's see. No, this translation came out in the 80s, 1980. And Oxford and Penguin all do many different translations of Homer, and this is the one I picked up here, because it's got a bunch of blurbs from when it came out in 1980, including one by Anthony Burgess, who says, "Mr. Scheuring has retold the tale for our time." So that's another edition of the Odyssey. That's probably, my 4th translation? My 5th? Something like that. Then we have a double. This one I did not know was a double at the time, but I still bought it because it was, $2? $3, sorry. And this is Livy, Dawn of the Roman Empire, books 31 to 40. And this is translated by J.C. Yardley. And I already have this exact copy. So if this is a repeat, maybe I'll give it away or do a giveaway on this channel. I'm not entirely sure yet, but yeah, so I have the later books of Livy that Oxford does. So I have books, I think 20 to 30 or 21 to 30. It's the earlier books, that Livy wrote that I do not have in Oxford. And then we come to I think I have this as an ebook, I'm not entirely sure, but it's Dostoevsky. This is The Idiot, translated by Alan Myers. I think I have this as an ebook. This one is a slightly waterlogged edition, but it's slightly rough on the edges here, but I don't have a physical copy of The Idiot by Dostoevsky, and this is one of his novels that I have not read yet, and I would really like to. I don't like that cover. I think it's a very ugly cover, but it is what it is, right? So, and then we move on to a Penguin Modern Classic in a design that I've never actually seen before. This is Quiet Flows the Dawn by Shalikov. And if you've seen either my earlier bookshelf tour or one of my earlier book haul videos, I found the second version of this, of Shalikov's Quiet Flows the Dawn. It's got a different title because when this novel first came out, I think in the 50s or 60s, Penguin did a 2-volume translation of it, but they didn't distinctly label it as 2 volumes. It's basically like 2 different novels is how they translated it, or how they marketed it. They packaged it as 2 different novels. And I found the second volume, which was incomplete, it turned out, because some of the last pages were torn out, which I didn't know at the time. But I found that one, and now I have the first volume, Quiet Flows the Dawn. This is translated by... Who was it translated by? It should say on the front here. Doesn't actually seem to say. No, it doesn't give me a translator's name. Weird. Yeah, so this doesn't seem to have a translator's name attached to it, or at least this volume doesn't give the translator their due. But yeah, so this is not even the whole work. So the edition that I have, that I want to read this in first before I give these older translations a try, is this big fat hardcover, which I've shown on my channel before, of the entire work in 1 volume in a much more modern rendition than this. So, and then we come to the last 2 Penguin Classics, including the last Penguin Classic that I want to show as probably the find for all Penguin Classics, and maybe challenging for one of the best finds of all of the classics that I found. And this one is the second last Penguin Classic. This is Alexander Dumas' The Three Musketeers. This is translated by Lord Sudley. Lord Sudley doesn't give any kind of... Yeah, this was first published in 1952. This is not the edition I think Penguin publishes now. I think Richard Pevier actually does the newer translation, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, it's another translation. I have what is it? The Signet Classic translation, which is actually from 1990s or something, which is unusual because Signet Classic usually doesn't publish newer translations, but in this case, they do, at least compared to this version here. And then the last Penguin Classic, and one of the finds of the day, was Vera Britton's Testament of Youth. And this is a book I've had my eye on for quite a while. This is considered a classic of World War I writing. It's nonfiction. I might as well read the back here because it's not a novel, so you're not getting convoluted plot descriptions. You're actually getting a description of the book. In 1915, Vera Britton abandoned her studies at Oxford to enlist as a nurse in the armed services. Before the war was over, she had served in London, Malta, and close to the Western Front in France, and she had lost all the men she loved. Out of that experience came this cauterizing book, at once a memoir and an elegy for the bright, passionate generation who came of age in the eve of the war and vanished in its trenches. Moving, sweeping, and one of the greatest accounts of the war ever written, Testament of Youth captures the politics, hopes, and despair of Britain and her peers. And looks like Mark Bostbridge, who wrote a biography of her, gives us an introduction here for this work. So a classic World War One memoir, and there's another classic World War One memoir, even way more famous than this, which might be showing up later in this classic haul. So, but first I want to, I'll do these three books first. Then we come to my non-Penguin Classic classics. And I'm kind of stretching the definition of classic in some of these senses, but this one, and especially with this one, this is Rebecca West. It's Rebecca West, A Celebration. And it's basically just an anthology of her work. And it says, selected from her writings by her publishers with her help. And we just got a nice illustration of the author here. And Rebecca West is the famous author of Black Lamb and Grey Falcon, which is this enormous book about her travels in Yugoslavia before World War II fully commenced. And I have the massive Penguin Classic of that volume, not here, but I do have it. And this selects about 200 pages from that, but it's the rest that I'm more interested in. It's got a collection of her fiction, her nonfiction. It's her nonfiction really that I want, and her literary criticism. So, but the weird thing I think is that it samples a bit of her fiction, and it doesn't include them in their entirety. So, for example, it includes selections from the modern Rake's Progress and the Thinking Read. So it only includes little sections from these novels, not the entire novel itself. So I'm curious how that reading experience will be. But yeah, the main thing that I want is that it's got political and crime reportage, literary criticism, and then it's got a little bit of her later fiction. So it's got The Birds Fall Down and This Real Night. Little selections from those novels. And then the rest is Black Lamb and Grey Falcon. A healthy selection. But this volume is quite long, so 200 pages off of 700. It gives me still quite a good anthology of her work that I want to sample. So, and then we come to it's a classic underrated classic in American history. This is the AntiFederalist, and this is a selection from the Chicago University Press's The Complete Federalist, edited by Herbert J. Storing, and then Murray Dry edits this selection. So this is So from what I know, I'm not totally up on my American history, but there was the Federalist Papers, which is the classic, or one of the classics of the founding of America. And there was a response of other people who were considered founders of America who wrote anti-Federalist papers, but most of them were usually anonymous or not totally attributed to certain authors. So it's basically like this argument between Federalist and Anti-Federalist, and this volume seems to give a healthy selection of that debate. And you don't really find a lot of these volumes. I think Signet Classics does a volume, but I don't think Penguin or Oxford or anyone publishes the Anti-Federalist or any Anti-Federalist works. So it's seen as a necessary counterpoint to the Federalist Papers, and I hope to read both of them back to back at some point. And so this is a nice volume to have. And then we get to one of the more beautiful classics that I have. This is a Folio Society, which I got for dirt cheap, which I never would have bought it otherwise. This is The Conquest of Mexico by William H. Prescott. And normally this book, I think written in the 1800s, in the Victorian age, it's exactly what the title says, The Conquest of Mexico, written up in basically this epic here. And this made Steve Donohue's The 100 Best Books Ever Written series that he did. And and normally wouldn't, like, if I found out this in maybe a Penguin Classics or an Oxford, I don't think I would have picked it up. But I found this gorgeous Folio Society edition. Look at those images on there. Nothing on the back though, but it's a green, beautiful edition, and it doesn't. I don't think it's illustrated that much. I don't like unlike modern Folio Society editions. There is some illustrations, but it doesn't have anything significant, or it's not, or anything in color. I don't think. But yeah, if I'm going to have this volume, and if I'm going to give it a try, if it's considered good reading, this will be the volume to do it in. So I picked it up. Let's see how much I paid for this. BookTube, I paid $2 for this. This was $2. So as you can tell, when things like this are $2, your self-control just flattens out. And then we have another stack of classics. I'm just going to keep on going. Another stack of classics. These are non-Penguin classics still, but we get 2 volumes of Oblav by Ivan Goncharov. Ivan Goncharov's Oblav. And this is the Signet Classic translation by Anne Dunnigan, who also does the Signet Classic translation of War and Peace. And this is the Dutton paperback, translated by, who does this translation? Translated by Natalie Duddington. Natalie Duddington. And they're both from the 1960s. So, 2 1960s translations of a Russian classic. And then we get to a more familiar author. This is J.D. Salinger's Fanny and Zoe. I think this is just a collection of short stories. Or maybe Fanny and Zoe is an actual novel. I don't actually know. Or maybe it's 2 novellas. I actually have no idea. All I know is that I read Catcher in the Rye a few years ago, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I hope to like what this author also wrote. And then we got a really cool find. This is the Portable Age of Reason Reader. And this is a very old Viking Portable edition. It says Viking, yeah, the Viking Portable Library right there. Though it doesn't actually give any idea that it's Viking Portable anywhere else. Yeah, but this is the Age of Reason Reader. I have a few other editions of Viking Portables. I have their Renaissance and their medieval volumes. And then I have this one. This is their Age of Reason anthology, and this is edited with an introduction by Crane Brinton. And if you're familiar with that writer, he's basically like a philosophy intellectual or something. He's written a couple of books that I do want to read. I have his book on revolutions, and then I have half his book on the study of ideas, which was put out in 2 mass markets, and I found the second volume of the mass markets. So I have a couple of works by that author. But yeah, this is the Age of Reason Viking Portable. And then we come to a modern Everyman's Library hardcover, and this is Merle Spark. This has got, 5 of her works? The Prime of Miss Jane Brodie, The Girls of Slender Means, The Driver's Seat, and The Only Problem. So novels, novellas, because it's fairly short, but it's got 5 of her works in here, and I like that author photo. Yeah, the interesting thing is, in my last book haul, I hauled a slim little Penguin mass market of the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. So now I have that work in an anthology by the author. So I don't know what I'll do with that. Maybe I'll give that one away too. And then we move on to a Norton Critical. I usually find lots of Norton Criticals. This time there wasn't as good a selection, but I found the Norton Critical of Wuthering Heights, which this is edited by Richard J. Dunn, and this is the 4th critical edition. And I usually, I like having these for novels that I want to grapple with, or novels that I really like. And I read this before, this novel, The Wuthering Heights, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So I want to give it a try, and I hope to supplement it with some good Critical apparatus. This one is perfectly clean, so it doesn't have any of the highlighting or anything that you might get from students using this in school. But that's Wuthering Heights. I just got a notification from my phone that it's almost dead, so I have 3 more books to go. Hopefully it doesn't die and I have to do a part 3 for the classics video. But the next 3 are the major finds of the classics section, accumulating in the find of the day for the classics. The first one is the Selected Canterbury Tales. This is by Geoffrey Chaucer, but it's a new verse translation by Sheila Fisher. And usually this would have put me off because 1, it's a selected Canterbury Tales, and 2, it's a translation, not the actual work and itself. So that's 2 votes against it. But this very distinct edition, this is a Norton edition, came out in 2011 and featured on the best of nonfiction list by that famous book reviewer that I talked about in my contemporary classics, or not my contemporary classics, my contemporary fiction version of this haul. And this is on the nonfiction, because from 1990 all the way up to today, or to this year, there is also the top 10 fiction books of the year. And since around 2011 onward, I think actually after 2011, the nonfiction section would be divided into many different sections, so for science or nature and onward. But in 2011, all the fiction was still put onto one list, and this was on that list. And from someone who can read Chaucer in the original and loves Chaucer in the original, having high praise for a modern selected translation is a big deal. And I found this beautifully used hardcover. I don't think I'll be able to get that off, but other than that, perfect edition here of a version of Chaucer. I've read the Penguin version. The Neville Cogtail translation, I think, is the Penguin version, and I didn't like it very much. So I hope I like this better. And then we get to a Viking hardcover of The Tale of the Heike, translated by Royal Taylor. And if you recognize that name, he is the translator of the Penguin Classic Deluxe edition of The Tale of Genji. I did not read that edition when I read The Tale of Genji, but I would like to. And it's a big, fat, enormous Tale of Genji, and published in the early 2000s, I think. But this came out, this was his next translation project, fairly contemporary or around the same time, I think, as The Tale of Genji, maybe a bit after. But this is another ancient Japan, tale from ancient Japan, though this one I think is more about fighting and battles and whatnot, and unlike the Tale of Genji, which is decidedly not that. But this is the Viking translation, or the Viking hardcover, which I believe is now in the Penguin Classic line. This exact translation, with, I think, the same cover. But this is the Viking hardcover, and I think, what a find. Just what a find. Perfect edition. It's got beautiful illustrations all throughout. Not in color, but I'm not going to complain, because I doubt the Penguin Classic reprints these illustrations. Like, look at that. What a find. And the funny thing is, I found this edition in the fiction section, because I guess the people sorting out the books didn't know better, because it's a very modern-looking production. The way the translator name is, it makes him look like the author of the work, because I guess we don't know who the author is for this book. But yeah, that's one of the mega finds, and then we get to the actual find of all the classics. All of these classics accumulate into this one book, and it's a slipcase. It's a slipcase Folio Society edition of the 7 Pillars of Wisdom by T.H. Lawrence. And the reason why that's a big deal for me is because this is the major World War I memoir classic. We talked about The Testament of Youth, which I found in a Penguin edition. But this one here, this is the Folio edition of the Seven Pillars of Wisdom. And look at those illustrations, all along the spine and whatnot. I don't know why they always leave the back part blank. This is not lavishly illustrated either, but I don't care because they got enough illustrations here for me. I think, oh actually, I'm wrong. There is color, black and white color, black and white photo insets spotted all along. Usually they would have them all in the middle, all the photo insets, but it looks like this one here just inserts one or two all along to supplement the narrative, which is something that I don't have. I have the vintage paperback sitting in that red spine right there. I have not read this in full. I've only read actually the beginning like 5 times, but I have not read through the entire thing. But if you like, I suggest you actually go and read like the first 3 pages of this work. It is absolutely brilliant prose, and I hope to read it this year in its entirety. I don't think I'll read it in this edition quite yet, because I want to annotate as I read it for the first time, so that edition will be perfect for that right there. That'll be the perfect edition for annotation, but this will be my prize version of the book, because look, just a folio edition of the Seven Pillars of Wisdom. I audibly gasped when I found this for used. This one was more expensive than the Prescott book was. This one was $10, but for a Folio Society edition in a slipcase, that's a perfect find. I'm not turning that aside. So, before my phone dies, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not going to put that in the box case or slipcase without looking and completely destroy it. So I'll wrap this up here, and I'll see you next time, BookTube.